Kirrily, thank you for talking to us. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Kirrily, I'm 29. I currently hail from Geelong. I grew up in Ballarat actually for about 19 years, did all my schooling there and whatnot, finished year 12. From there I moved up to Geelong in 2007 to initially study social work, which I eventually fell out of love with. But pursued other studies, which unfortunately didn't see that through either, due to illness, which has been an issue in the last 5 years, which I will no doubt cover it later on in my experiences, as I'm a young person living in a nursing home as well. I'm also genderqueer lesbian, and I've been out for a while, I guess, a long time now, and it's been an interesting experience of exploring the world as a woman with a disability who identifies within the spectrum as well.
How challenging can that be?
It can be very challenging. As you know, we mentioned in our discussion before, there's stigmas that exist within society, and there's so many stigmas that exist within disability or around the topic of disability itself. Whilst things are improving, we've still got a long way to go, and often those stigmas impact many areas, such as your housing, your employment, your education, a quality of life often as well. And when you throw in several stigmas, it can often be a challenge. There was one thing I was discussing at the recent LGBTI roadshow that was just gone through Geelong and Ballarat, is the issue of several stigmas coming together, or double, triple, quadruple, however many stigma you want to identify, and how those all interrelate. And if you can't get any help to address all of those stigmas all in one, if you can get help for one or two stigmas at the one time, it's not going to help you progress within the world and help you out as a as a young person, or as a person who is LGBTI with a disability.
You talked about being genderqueer earlier.
Yes.
And having a disability.
Yes.
It's not obviously visible on camera. Are you able to tell us what your disability is?
Yes, I've got spina bifida. So that's L4-5. Spina bifida is effectively a spinal deformation. It can happen anywhere along the spine. And it comes in 3 levels. I happen to have the most severe level, which involves, when I was born with my spinal cord exposed, and deformation of the vertebrae around it, hence causing deficiencies and whatnot with lower body, some cognitive function. Obviously use a wheelchair now. I actually, prior to using the wheelchair, did walk, and I did ballet for a long time as well as a little kid, and used to toddle about and look like I was waddling like a duck. But yeah, walking started to deteriorate from about the age of 8.5, and hence the reason why I use a wheelchair now. And I'm also a bilateral leg amputee, and I have been since the age of 21.
A bilateral leg amputee, that means both legs?
Yes. Yeah.
Genderqueer,
Yep.
What does that mean?
For me, it means, I guess, adopting... I've explored a more neutral way of expressing my own identity. If so, I was addressing my identity in a very feminine way a long time ago, and I can remember being so unhappy and so uncomfortable in myself, and often quite depressed too. But for me, the way I present, the way I am now, the way I dress, etc., etc., is a lot more, it's not entirely masculine, but it's neutral, verging on masculine. And that's where I see myself now. I still use the female pronouns. However, the way I present, the way I think, it's a lot more slash neutral slash masculine now, which, yeah, that was a bit of a liberating thing to explore a few years ago. And as I said, I feel more happier within myself and my own identity. And yeah, I've certainly noticed huge differences over the last few years.
You strike me as very confident.
Yeah.
You talked about the stigma of being genderqueer and having disability. A lot of people, they often feel uncomfortable approaching the subject or to ask questions.
Yes.
How do you respond to that?
I think the first thing to get around is the assumptions. There's many assumptions that are made about disability and sexuality in the first instance. And it's either one extreme or another. It's either, oh no, someone's completely asexual and incapable of forming relationships, etc., etc. However, on the other spectrum, sometimes we're assumed as, oh no, they're hypersexual and can't control themselves, etc., etc. Neither are the case. We are capable of having loving relationships. We are capable of expressing our sexuality, gender identity, etc., etc. And yeah, those assumptions can be frustrating. And I think, you know, the ways that it can be addressed, I think, you know, we just need to get the word out there that it's just really not the case. You know, that we are loving, feeling, thinking human beings as well. Just because we have something wrong with our bodies, or several things wrong with our bodies, that we don't feel, we don't think. We do feel, we do think. And yeah, to see, I mean, we have moved forward a lot in society in our thinking in terms of disability as a concept. But as I've said, we've still got a long way to go. And as for disability and sexuality, that's still the case as well.
To what extent do you feel accepted by other members of the wider LGBTQI community?
I feel very accepted. I feel very accepted. Of course, there's still that stigma about as well, and especially when it comes to things like dating. They tend to see the disability, or they tend to see the object that sits directly beneath my tush before they see me. Yeah, my wheelchair is not me, my lack of legs is not me. Yeah, and that seems to be the case for a lot of people. There is, you know, dating is getting easier for a lot of people, but yeah, again, people tend to see the disability before the person. And that should be the other way around, because the person is more important than the disability. Yes, I identify as a woman with a disability, but first and foremost, I'm a woman who lives with a disability. But I still say woman with a disability because that's a label I'm proud of. But yeah, I'd rather see people see me first than, you know. And I suppose that brings me to another subject as well. You know, there's I suppose cultures, people out there who do tend to see the disability before the person, and view that in a romantic light. Devotees, they are called, and there is still a lot of those out in society as well.
When you say devotees, I mean, this is new to me. Is this a form of fetish in some ways?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a love of the disability rather than, I mean, they might have a love towards a person, but there is definitely a fetishization of a certain element of someone's disability.
And do you think there's a certain element of control there? Or a genuine caring aspect? It's
hard to say. It's hard to say. I've never had a direct... I've had near calls with devotees, but and it's often been around the whole, oh, look at you, poor thing, viewed me as poor thing because I have a disability. So it could be a control thing, it could be a pity thing, which kind of sickens me, or yeah, it just could be the fetish aspect as well. Yeah.
Dating. What have been the major challenges, or have there been any?
Yeah, there's been challenges. Going out and meeting people, for one, has been one, particularly over the last few years, as I have had trouble going out to places to meet people, and you know, I'm not one to, don't get me wrong, I have used internet dating sites, but I really don't like them. I just really do not like them. Someone whom I recently was in a relationship with, I did actually happen to meet off Facebook, and then we started talking from there, and you know, even though that didn't go so well, I will cherish those 4 months for sure. And I'm sort of hoping I can find someone else who's, you know, just as special. But yeah, in terms of dating, going out meeting people, and I think that's been a challenge for a lot of people, going out and meeting people and overcoming assumptions as well. People making assumptions about you based on your disability. Yeah.
Kirrily, you're an activist.
Yes.
What are your major areas of activism?
So my major areas of activism, obviously there's LGBTI stuff, which I'm heavily involved in. A lot of disability stuff. So you've got your housing. That's a key one for me. I am a young person who lives in a nursing home and have been for the last nearly 5 years, due to long-term illness, which I'm on the tail end of now and seeking alternate accommodation at the moment, meeting with people to arrange that. My key area of activism around that area is obviously to get young people out of those godforsaken places, and into more appropriate housing with, you know, appropriate supports that supports their needs, because at the end of the day we're looking at over 7,000 still that are trapped within nursing homes.
How do they become trapped in nursing homes?
A lot of misinformation within the health system, and that's purely a consumer perspective. A lot of misinformation from the health system. People aren't referred to the right information sources so they can find out where to get the housing they need, the supports they need. And also the fact that there's also just sheer lack of housing stock out there with lack of funding and lack of supports. And well, I mean, quite frankly, I don't see the lack of funding as an excuse. I see the lack of support as an excuse, but I don't see the lack of funding as an excuse. I see the government using lack of funding as an excuse. I'd like to see them pull up their socks in this area and actually fund disability housing properly, and actually start to get these numbers down from the 7,000, and get the housing stock ready and blah 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 blah. And it's also up to individual organisations, which I've seen organisations, one in New South Wales, one in Victoria, who are one's been working at stuff for a very long time, a very well-known organisation, and another very well-known organisation has just started a housing subsect of their organisation as well, whom I used to do a lot of work with, don't anymore, but I applaud this latest step. I think it's a step in the right direction, because I don't think they were doing things right previously, and I absolutely applaud them for it.
I don't know about your own situation. or what you're prepared to say. But for you, life in the home that you live, what is it like?
So, I suppose this is a bit of a spiel. Like, imagine you were, 23, 24, 25. Imagine you were a 25-year-old, whatever, in amongst a clinical living environment that's dull, that's white walls, it's like a hospital, very institutionalized, very structured, very rigid. Imagine you're in that environment where you had no choice of a schedule for the day. I choose my own schedule now, whether people like it or not, but some people don't have that choice because they need the help. You're told when to shower, when to have a shave, to go to the toilet, blah blah blah, because it's all on the time slot of what the staff is. It's not on your time slot.
Very regimented.
Very regimented. And imagine that in amongst an environment where you're in amongst the dead, the dying and dead and dying, so to speak. You're in amongst aged care related illness all the time, such as dementia, countless others.
How does it affect you mentally?
It affected me a lot. Early days, going from my journey, so I began with 3 months in hospital with this wound. I was diagnosed with a stage 4 pressure area, which needed quite extensive surgery. And during that time, also in my very confused mind, I was having all these unnecessary, mind you, I do say deluded mind as well, unnecessary interventions and treatments, which what the hell was going on? So I had 3 months of that. From that 3 months, there was not much recovery. So from there, they transferred me to a transitional care placement within an aged care facility. Now, I was only meant to be there for 3 months. It turned out to be 4 due to lack of recovery. But same thing, paranoid about people's intentions in amongst the aging, those are, in God's waiting room, so to speak. As a young person, feeling isolated, feeling alone, feeling paranoid about people's intentions. And, for me at the time, not being physically well, I don't think upon self-analysis, I was mentally well as well. In fact, I think I was very mentally unwell at the time. And yes, I was a bit paranoid, and yes, I was this, that and the other. And that experience still only heightened it. And a lot of trust was broken with a few of my workers as well. And that turned out to be after I had the time at TCP. But anyway, after that 4 months...
TCP?
Transitional care placement. So it's an in-between, it's like a waiting room to go to a more permanent placement, what have you.
What are the staff like?
Where I am now, pretty good. Pretty good. Most I can't fault. I've had trouble with a few, but majority I can't fault.
Do you get many visitors?
On the occasion, yes I do. Mostly I have to go to them. But there has been quite a few that, the visits are rare. The visits are rare. But the question I ask in this instance is, what young friend and or partner wants to go visit their young friend and or partner in an environment where they're living in amongst the aged and elderly.
What does the future hold there? Is there a way for you to get out?
yeah, I'm looking at some options at the moment for myself. I'm in talks with case management and all that sort of stuff to get my caboose out of there. There's definitely some options there. Some options which are in Leopold, which is roughly half an hour away from me, and that's going to be, whilst I don't need 24-hour support, I feel I need, just in the beginning stages, even if I do end up renting a place by myself, I do want to employ a carer just to make sure I'm on top of everything, everything's covered, etc, etc.
Are you in touch with your family at all?
Yes, I'm in touch with my cousin and my sister. Yeah, my cousin Donna has been great, and most of my other extended family has been brilliant as well.
Do you have a message for anybody in a similar situation to you?
Don't give up, stay strong. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and even if you do feel you want to stay in that environment because you feel it's the best for you, please engage supports around you so you're not isolated, so you're not alone, so you don't slip into a crack of depression, because there's been quite a few times where I have slipped into a big crack of depression due to my living environment, and that's particularly after witnessing instances of death and dying. I've seen bodies being carried out. What 20-something should be seeing that on a regular basis? What 20-something should be seeing that on a regular basis? No 20-something.
Do you have a message for the government?
Get your act together. Get something done, because yes, whilst you quote the numbers are going down, they're in fact going up, and I see proof of it day to day. There are instances of young people coming into the transitional care program where I am, and that's not good enough, and that is not good enough. There needs to be more options out there so people with disabilities can live the life they want to lead with the support, the quality supports they need. Another organisation I work for, TIC. Quality supports, there we go. Little plug. That they need to, just live a happy life within the community, and that's a given too. It must be housing within the community. None of this, let's just separate the disabled folk from the rest of the community. No, we need to be integrated with the rest of society, where we can integrate with our peers, where we can get that support, where we can have time with our loved ones. Even though relationship didn't go so well, I still yearned for an environment where I could have been free for a person to have come to me, like me to go visit the lovely lady, but for that person to come to me and come and visit me. I didn't have the environment for that at the time, but I would have loved to have had a homely, comfortable, non-institutional, non-clinical, non-cold environment that I could have had a loved one or even just a friend come and visit.
So having somebody there is important to you?
Yeah, having somebody there is very important. Having somebody there is very important.
What other areas of activism are you focused on?
Other areas of activism. At the moment, I did a lot of stuff with the Human Rights Commission Disability Reference Group. I finished up with that last year, so working on a number of campaigns, like worked on taxi campaigns because there's a lack of those around at the moment. My interests as well lie around stuff like, obviously LGBTI issues, housing, employment and education is definitely another one. and also welfare related issues too. And many of those I have attended numerous rallies and put my bit forward to say my 2 cents. You know, been to all the March in March rallies and Bust the Budget and all of those rallies, so I'm a regular rally goer. At the moment too, I've just recently got involved with Geelong Rainbow and joined on a couple of committees with those guys.
What do they do?
So they're an umbrella corporation or organisation hoping to provide a number of services, provide advocacy, do events, etc., for the LGBTI community in Geelong, because the scene in itself has died off a little in Geelong, and want to try that, you know, Geelong Rainbow want to try and revitalise it a bit. As yeah, there was 2 events a while ago, but due to, I think there was a bit of fighting or something that went on, I can't remember, but yeah, just want to try and get those supports going for people. And yeah, I put my hand up for those particular 2 committees because I want to engage in some disability related, some intersectional stuff as well.
You enjoy it?
I do, very much, very much.
Coming out, how tough has it been to come out for you?
It was quite a journey, actually. Okay, so from about the age of 12, 13, 14, I always knew something was developing, but I was trying to push it down as much as I could. It was something I always used to be picked on about and teased. Like, oh, such and such likes you, she wants to date you, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not like that, sorry. When and as a matter of fact, turns out that was the case, but anyway. But yeah, I can remember from about year 7 up, there were certain teachers I used to be quite fond of. Intelligence is a big attraction for me, so that was another factor as well. I can remember having, you know, little crushes on, you know, a couple of my English teachers. And, you know, an example of that was, you know, if they came up to talk to me, I'd get all shy and whatnot and cute and blah blah. But if I get another example, if I gave them a gift for Christmas like I did with all of the teachers, again, I'd get a kiss on the cheek, I'd blush like anything. I'd blush like anything. Yeah, so, and I was always teased about that as well. Are you sure you're not a certain way? No, nothing to see here. So I think from there too, I always used to have black and blue arguments with my father on the issues of gay rights and equal marriage and all that sort of stuff. And obviously I was for equal rights and etc. But of course, due to those insecurities, I had some internalized stuff going on as well. And with those arguments, black and blue, I can always recall, so Kirrily, is there something you want to tell me? No, everything's fine. Everything's fine. So it wasn't until kind of 17, 18, I started accepting this part of myself. And it was more so when I left school, when I finished school. I started accepting that part of myself and exploring that part of myself to a small degree, because I didn't really want to be kicked on my butt out of the home environment. I don't think I would have been, but there's always that risk. So, you know, just getting in touch with like-minded friends and, you know, people around me, and started going to a few of the rallies in Ballarat as well. Circa yeah, 2009 I think I went to my first one, but that was later on. Yeah, so that was when I left school, so that was 2006. So come 2007, I move up to Geelong. I start uni at Deakin, doing social work, which is kind of ironic given where I am now in a very indirect way. But awesome all the same, awesome all the same. So with that, I joined a lot of societies and clubs and all that sort of stuff, and I started getting into friendship groups. And you know, one day I was talking about sexuality issues with a then friend of mine, and I sort of said to her, look, I think I'm bisexual. So she's like, oh yeah, come along to this queer beer group that we've got going. So I started going along to that, and I started getting more confidence in my own identity and all that sort of stuff, and talking to like-minded people. And I found that support really helpful, and the advice I got from that really helpful as well in terms of coming out and all that sort of stuff. So after that, I can remember, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I can remember developing somewhat of a crush on someone whom I did a bit of work with on the Student Association. Really embarrassing that I'm admitting this now. And it really did my head in. I'm like, I've never had feelings like overpowering as well, really overpowering emotions. I've never had this before for like any guy. What's going on? What's going on? I don't know what's going on. I tried talking it out with friends and all this sort of stuff, and couldn't come to a conclusion. To this day, I still can't come to a conclusion. But yeah, I think the only conclusion I could have come to with that was, yeah, something's up. Time to admit it, something's up. So fast forward a few years later, when I start to, you know, accept myself, my identity a bit more, even though I was more kind of hetero of the spectrum at that time, there was still that side of me. Fast forward a few years later to my second amputation, which was 2010. I was at peace with what was going on again after this one coming off first and the left one coming off second. So middle of that year, had this one done. And after that was done, came home to my parents, and that particular, I think it was near Christmas that year, I came out to my father and I said, Dad, I've got something to tell you, I'm bisexual. And initially he was accepting of it, only because he thought I was then dating a then best friend whom I wouldn't have gone even near. No, that sounds horrible, but I wouldn't have gone near. We were just friends, we were just doing the whole sweetie darling, blah, blah, all the name thing that you do with mates, but he assumed it was something else. So therefore he was accepting. About a month later, I told him again, he wasn't so accepting. He was like, no, you're not, you've always talked about boys, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I have to you, but I haven't had the confidence to talk about the other feelings to you because I had the fear that something adverse would happen. And yeah, that was not good, and I think it led to a lot of arguing and stuff, and now I've basically cut him out of my life because his influence in my life was quite toxic post. And I think there's been attempts to reconnect, but I'm kind of not willing to go there.
You talked about your father, and we don't have to mention it, but people may ask, your mother?
Yeah, my mother, I lost her when I was 16 to cancer. She was a very hard-working, inspirational, kind, compassionate, strong woman, strong nurse, strong individual. Yeah, she was a big influence in, I suppose, what I've been wanting to do with my career and the direction of where I want my career to lead, in terms I want to do things for the purpose of good, not evil. She always did things with compassion, with fight, with drive, and with kindness, but she always had I mean, this was a woman, for instance, who, after being going through domestic violence, and this was a severe episode of domestic violence, after dropping a partner to the hospital in, I think it was Ararat at the time, car broke down on the way, she walked back to Ballarat, sat her nursing exams the next day and got top 2% in the state. So this is a very determined woman we're talking about, and I sort of hope I reflect some of her traits as well. I certainly know I've got her stubbornness. I'm not sorry about that.
So were your parents together at the time or separated? Or
yeah, my parents were together at the time.
So we're together.
Yeah.
And you've got siblings?
Yeah, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, so I'm the baby of the family.
Are you in touch with any of them?
Yes, in touch with my sister. Out of touch with 2 or 3 of them, but very, very connected with my extended family as well. One in particular, Donna, who's been very, very supportive the last few years, and actually one year did a fun run with me, which was great, and I hope to do that with you again, Donna, because that was fun.
What about friendships?
Yeah, friendships. Yeah, I've got a big friendship group. I mean, obviously I meet friends out in the community and stuff, but obviously, being the social media nerd that I am, I spend a lot of time on social media, so I converse with friends on social media. But yeah, big friendship groups, and a lot of people whom I respect and admire through the activism circle as well. So a lot of friends through that work too. Yeah, but yeah, as I said, that whole dynamic of me being where I am and trying to get regular access to and to mingle with said friends, and that has been difficult. It's getting better, but yeah, it has been difficult. There's been a lot of difficulties.
Ableism.
Yes.
How do you define that?
Ableism. I think there's a lot of, again, it's based on assumptions, a lot of assumptions of what we're capable of, what we're not capable of. Assumptions of things like our intelligence, for instance, without prior, conversing with us first. Disabling access to things within the community, and that's just not just physical, like aka lack of ramps or anything. That's just ableism, but lack of access to things like education, lack of access to things like employment, lack of access to things like a stable income, a stable quality of life. I see that as huge disableism. And I don't know, the whole inspirational debate, my views tend to differ on this issue a lot with most people I know. I mean, the way we go about our lives, I don't view myself as inspirational the way I go about my life, but if someone comes up to me and says, oh, you're inspirational, you've just made my day better, well then so be it. Especially if they're having a terrible day or they're depressed or what have you, then okay, if I've made your life better on that day, then so be it.
What do people in general have to be aware of when it comes to ableist language or behaviour?
Me personally, there's certain words I have a complete disdain for. One is handicapped. One, I don't play golf. I hate golf. Totally irrelevant. But I see the word as handicapped as something that holds me back. and I don't, the only thing that holds myself back is me. Nothing holds me. There are some aspects that do hold me back, but I can combat those. It's how I go about it to combat the issues. I think in terms of vocal tone and body language as well, some people really mean well, but the way, especially if you're talking to someone like this.
Do you find people can be quite condescending?
Yes. I take that with a double-edged sword though. Like, it's well-meaning. It's well-meaning, so I know I probably shouldn't let it slide, but because it is well-meaning, I do let it slide, and I take it as a compliment. Thank you. I do wish, however, society did have more education on how to actually ask of the person's abilities first before making assumptions on their automatic assumptions on their intelligence, their mobility, their what have you. I mean, I had an example walking up to the hotel here before. Mind you, the help was graciously appreciated because I was pushing up a massive hill. There was a guy who did walk up straight behind me and start pushing me. I was a bit kind of at first, but in saying that, the help was appreciated, but ask the person first whether they need assistance. Don't just assume they need assistance. Because that can often be disempowering as well. Might be well-meaning, and I appreciate that it's well-meaning as well, but that could come off as very disempowering, or it is in some instances very disempowering.
Does it annoy you?
It can do. It can do. Especially in the last few years, like I've had people assume things like my intelligence due to some deficits I have. And that's been, clinical professionals like who work within the health sector. And I kind of think to myself, you have no right to assume my intelligence or anything else because you actually haven't bothered to talk to me in a non-clinical sense. I know you have a job, I know you have a responsibility, however, you haven't bothered to talk to me like a normal person. Until you talk to me like a normal human being, not just a human being with a wheelchair attached to her caboose, then you can make assumptions, but until then, no.
What about finding work or employment? Is that possible? Is it a challenge?
I've actually been very lucky in the last couple of years to have found work with an organisation called Clickability, www.clickability.com.au, plug. An awesome website that was established by two inspirational, in my mind, social workers, Aviva and Gemma, and have a world of respect for them. They've done a wonderful thing for the disability sector. I do their social media management, and have been doing, as I said, for nearly 2 years. So that just involves monitoring all the social media channels, creating content, all the marketing, social media marketing type stuff. And just getting the content out there and spreading the word about the website, generally speaking. And it's something I enjoy because, one, I've always had a bit of a natural knack for social media, as you may know. I'm not half a nerd, but and two, it's combining that interest with, I suppose, previous studies, area of interest, kind of to a degree, as I said, there was an element of a bit of irony there. You know, and also using those skills for the power of good and not for the power of all things evil and money making and all that sort of stuff. Which, you know, if a large, I don't know, if Coca-Cola was to offer me a job, I'd easily turn it down because I'm not interested in that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been really lucky in finding that job, and it's something I really, really love, really enjoy, and it's something as an advocate within the disability sector, that particular concept I was immediately drawn to. The story around that was the girls actually came to pitch the website to a group that I chair, MainH, which is representing young people in nursing homes under the age of 65. So they came to pitch the idea to the group, or the website to the group, and get people to use it and whatnot. And prior to that, I'd actually had a bit of a browse at the website. Oh wow, what's this? This is awesome, what a volunteer with this. So I saw they were after a social media manager. And I went to the meeting, I'm like, you're after a social media manager? Over here, over here. So yeah, had the interview and had the month trial, and yeah, sort of nearly 2 years on, still working with them. So, and yeah, also studying marketing to complement that and to further my abilities as well. So.
Before we wrap up, you're involved in, I think, LGBTQI activism as well.
Yes.
Any important groups you're involved with, or significant groups?
Within that, at the moment, I've just become recently involved with the recently formed Geelong Rainbow. So with that, I'm involved in the support committee and also the advocacy committee.
You of course mentioned them earlier on in the interview as well.
Yes, yes. I've done a bit of public speaking of late in regards to that side of things. I did a bit of public speaking at the recent LGBTI roadshow when it came to Geelong, when they did the disability, the intersectional stuff, which was really good discussion, and a good panel discussion with two awesome gentlemen, so with Eamon and Tom. So yeah, it was good. That was fun, really enjoyable, and I'm actually sort of hoping to do more of that. And personally speaking, I'm in talks because I want to get more work in terms of public speaking and keynote speaking, because I see a bit of a income from that potentially. I'm not sure, but it's worth exploring. So I'm in talks with someone to create my own business in regards to that as well, and also exploring and it's an idea I had a while ago about creation of a androgynous accessible fashion label, which is a bit of a pipe dream. And I had another one on top of that, which I'm not sure whether that's even going to work. But those are the two main ideas I want to come out of the meetings with other people. But yeah, as for the activism and stuff, just numerous rallies. I go to the Equal Love rallies and whatever I can go to really to support.
You've pretty much covered my final question, which was, what does the future hold for Kirrily? Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any other issues or anything?
What does the future hold? Well, yeah,
we've covered a lot of ground. It's
all up to the unknown at the moment. As I said, I've been in touch with potential management and PR to get the ball rolling in terms of getting more public speaking work and keynote, and just getting my PR up a bit. I still see myself working with Clickability because I love it. I love it. It's yeah, good people, good organisation, good purpose, and definitely got good mates out of there as well. So good support base as well. Those two have been brilliant support.
Brilliant.
And yeah, sort of going back to the other thing, yeah, seeing if I can get that. Again, it might be a pipe dream, I don't know, but don't know if you don't explore it. And I've had actually people telling me, why don't you actually explore this idea? Why don't you actually talk to someone and pitch the idea and explore it? So I made the decision to do it. Got it done. So we're in the very beginning stages at the moment, and I'm getting some mentors and whatnot arranged to get it all done, and yeah, we'll see how we go.
Kirrily, thank you very much.
Thank you.